Hi guys, my name is Nora and today's subject is whether to play with a pick or fingers. And what I'm talking about, more specifically, I'm talking about like jazz guitar and electric guitar with pick or fingers. And obviously, the first thing I have to say that majority of guitarists plays with a pick. And the reason why I'm even addressing it at all is because I'm the one that is sort of like the weird one, right? I do like to play with fingers most of the time, and only in recent years I sort of like started adapting more of the pick. And the reason why I'm that's also the reason why I'm sort of qualified to talk about this subject, because we are not that many who play jazz with fingers, and it's kind of like untapped kind of world, really. And a little bit about my background, why I even play with fingers so much, and why why did I decide to do that? I feel like when I decided to do it, maybe didn't have enough information. But the thing is, and I was quite stubborn, right? Like, so my teacher kind of was telling me to play with a pick. But I came from flamenco background. That was about, I started playing about 26-ish years ago when I was a teenager, so quite late as well. My teacher, my jazz guitar teacher, I think that was probably 20 years ago or maybe 22 years ago or something like that. So I started studying jazz after I already studied like classical guitar and flamenco, and also I was playing blues. And blues, I feel like there's a lot of like blues schools that is actually fingerstyle. One of the guitarists that obviously we have to mention is Wes Montgomery, right? Cool things that he does, and he didn't play with a pick, so he's one of those examples, and there are more that just does their own thing and play with fingers and make it work. And guys, I'm actually really curious for you to tell me what you think. What is your preferred playing? And I understand like most people might be playing with a pick, but what are your thoughts about this subject? What do you think are pros and cons of playing with pick and fingers? And what are your experiences? For example, if you did study classical guitar, how did you switch, right? So if you did switch. So I'm really curious to find out what you think. And so comment down below. I'll be curious to know your thoughts about this subject. I'm also curious if you could tell me any maybe guitars that I don't know about who play with fingerstyle. Like I'd be curious to check new guitars out. There are a lot of pros and a lot of cons in this choice, and let's look at just generally what are the pros of playing with pick and fingers or fingers. Yeah, let's dive into it. So generally, when it comes to the pick, let's start with a pick. According to just what I think, a pick is just generally easier to learn. And it's also easier to master, and it gives you, it's easier to play it better in time. So because it's almost like a percussive instrument, you hit it. Although you could say that about fingers, right? But it's still slightly, so there's a kind of just different sound. And also just the sound, you can get more precise sound with a pick, I think. right? In the same time with fingers, you have a different sound, and I'm actually playing with nails, so not just with fingers, with nails. And here's just the pros with a pick. I'd say easier to master, easier to learn. There's more schools out there to learn this technique, and it's just easier to play in time and more precise, more precision. And also another pro I would say is, obviously if you want to play like more kind of funk stuff, then definitely you need to play with a pick. There's no way around it. I don't think you can master funk at all with fingers. What are the cons with a pick? I think it's limiting when you play, for example, I mean, kind of, you can do it. I'm talking about chord melody, right? So say I'm playing, right? I feel like with fingers, there's just more flexibility when it comes to playing chords, right? And generally with a pick, you actually physically can't play like a spread voicing kind of thing, whatever it is, like, I don't know, right? C spread voicing, you basically can't do it with a pick. With a pick, you will always have, you're not going to be harmonic, right? So, I mean, as of like, they will be always arpeggiated. With fingers, you can press them all together. So, and another thing about pick, even though you kind of technically you can do chord melodies with a pick as well, you still, there's like certain sounds you can't access basically. And I think, and that's the reason why I sort of decided to start start working more with a pick, even though my primary playing was with fingers, was because of those limitations in each of those styles, each of those playing techniques. And the other thing, like for example, okay, you play with a pick and you wanna do the chord melody. I mean, one way people find is hybrid picking, but I find hybrid picking is still kind of slightly limited. If you can play with fingers, you actually have 4 fingers. You don't usually play with the small finger, but with a hybrid, as far as I understand, you kind of are limited because you're holding a pick, and then you only have like 2 or 3. Maybe you're playing with a small finger as well. But I never dug into hybrid picking simply because that was never necessary for me. I felt like with fingers I can actually do more. So that's sort of like a nice thing when you can kind of play fingerstyle. In the same time you can go, right? So that kind of thing, which was just beginning of giant steps. You can't, you sort of like, you can only do with fingers. You can kind of do it with a pick, but it's not going to sound the same. So basically you have things you can't do with a pick and things you can't do with the fingers. The other thing is with the fingers, you can actually, it's much easier to play arpeggiated things. For example, Coltrane line, this one is like, for me, it's really super simple to play with fingers, because like I can use all 4 fingers here, right? With a pick, obviously you can kind of sweep in a way, or go just downstroke. The other thing, the other little pro I forgot to mention is actually with playing with fingers, I did develop myself like a little bit more original and sort of original sound because I was playing differently and I was sort of like just doing my own thing, and that is a kind of like one benefit from it, right? Like I did develop original sound. And sometimes when I practice with a pick and I practice transcriptions, I go back to again sounding like, you know, people I'm transcribing, and that's cool too. I feel like it's great to have your sound, but it's also great to have the ability to sound like Wes sometimes, right? Or sound like someone, you know, you like. Just that ability is great to have. It's just like a tool in your toolbox, right? And here's the second thing about fingers and pick. So there are so many different ways how to play with fingers and pick that even within those things you still have to choose. So there's like a lot of, like, for example, even like this particular little line, you could be doing alternating here, just going down up. That's a choice. That's choice one. You can also do the pull off here and go down stroke all the way up. You can also have different angles of the pick. There's like many people who angle a pick like this. There's many people who angle like this, the pick angle itself. And so, you know, either you can sort of like do it like this or like this. And each of those little details will change the way you sound. Also, the touch, how strongly you hit the string, all these little details will actually contribute to your tone and your sound. The other thing is obviously the pick itself. You know, some people like, okay, there's one pick I used in the past, it was like a wooden one, right? So you have like a place, you know, for your thumb to go. And it's very thick. I used to like these for a little bit. I end up currently, I'm sort of more like in a purple Dunlop ones, 1.14 millimeters, I believe. Yeah, just 3 XL series. So this is the one I currently like. That's so many choices there, and also there's a lot about the details of what you're doing there. Let's get into it at the end of the video. When it comes to the fingerstyle, the same thing. The stuff I do is basically a combination. So even though my background was flamenco, there's like a combination of things I came up with that wasn't related to my original technique for flamenco. Like flamenco technique was more like picado. So you have, you know, obviously in classical you do like this. So what I end up doing is I picked, I use the thumb always to mute the rest of the strings. And I do a lot of hammer-on pull-offs. And I use my thumb as well. So there's like a big, like huge combination of things that I'm doing. Sometimes I'm doing this. Sometimes I'm just playing with one finger here. And all the work is done here, right? Sometimes when I play like a switch string, for example, we're going to say on 5th fret, D to C to A. I'm actually gonna, if I'm using, picking every string, I will be doing this, and I'm gonna go with the thumb to the next string. So that's the kind of stuff that I had to come up with. And to be fair, it took me a long time to figure that stuff out, and it's just much harder. It's much harder to figure that stuff out and master fingerstyle. So in so many ways, I actually recommend people playing with pick, even though I am the fingerstyle player, right? Yeah, and like the other thing is, because I'm playing with strings, I actually can have that sort of pick sound, even though I don't have a pick. So this time I didn't have a pick in my hand, right? So I can actually hold my hand in the way like a pick, and my nails are pretty strong, and I put nail polish on them also to make them stronger. So there's a lot of tricks and stuff to figure out to make this work. So it's just much easier with the pick, right? But if you want to master both, I'd suggest to master one first, right? So that's the general rule. So the general rule, whatever you do, guys, make sure to really master that thing you're doing. So once you decide, okay, I'm gonna like learn to play with fingers really well, you have to like work on little details. You have to slow things down. You have to like, you have to find, you have to sort of find the best fingerings. You have to find, like, just magnify everything you're doing, playing with the metronome, playing slowly increasing, those kind of things. Like, you can't just rush through and then, okay, I'm done now, let's take the other technique on. Just do the one really well, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which technique you're using. If you make it work, then that's great. Then that's it. That's all that matters. That's about it, guys. Remember, whatever you pick, whichever pick or fingers, just make that work and spend a lot of time on little details, slow down tempos, and yeah, guys, then world is your oyster. Thanks, guys, for watching this video. I would appreciate if you give me that subscribe and notification bell and all these things, and give me a thumbs up as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.